On every door was a deadbolt, and on every window, it was barred shut. The more they looked around, the more it sent shivers down their spine. But little did they know, it was just the opening for a far more sinister tale.
The year was 1994. Cold, chilling wind swept across the landscape of northeastern Utah. Terry and Gwen Sherman had an idea in their mind. They wanted to find a place to settle down and raise a family. And their search led them to a little ranch. But not long after they moved in, they couldn't help but feel that there was something in the air, something blanketing the air around them, something eerie.
Little did the Shermans know that all these warning signs were not just in their imagination, as it all came together one faithful night about a month after moving in. The whole family was carrying on with their daily routine. Gwen and Terry usually tended to the cattle that were on their farm at this time, so they were both over there by the cows when they heard an unwelcoming, unfamiliar sound. And it sounded what seemed to them to be an animal in the distance, or at least that's what they thought. So they looked out to the tree line. They're scanning the tree line of their property, trying to find out where this noise is coming from, see if they can spot the animal that's making it. Now it's kind of the late afternoon, so this tree line was kind of covered in shadows across the property, and they could kind of make out something emerging from those shadows in the distance. But after a minute or two, the thing got closer and closer. Terry and Gwen looked at each other to make sure that what they were seeing was real. What they seen about 100 yards away, getting closer and closer, was a giant wolf. One that was taller than any wild dog they'd had ever seen in their life, in person or on TV. The closer it got, the more details they could make out. This dog, this wolf beast, was blacker than night, a shade of black they had never seen before in their life, a shade of black that didn't even seem natural. And now they can make out that its eyes are almost a glowing orange. Right at that moment when they were commenting about its eyes, the beast broke into a full-on sprint towards them.
Now, as they're seeing this wolf circle them, they couldn't help but notice that the wolf never broke eye contact. It was staring directly at them the entire time. The stare of the wolf was almost like a trance. Terry and Gwen, they couldn't move. Either out of fear or whatever you want to call it, they could not move an inch. And with lightning speed, the wolf jumped over the fence where the cattle is contained and latched onto the neck of a calf, just tearing it to shreds as the family watched. And finally, snapping out of the trance, Terry, quick thinking as he is, reached into the back of his pants and pulled out the gun that he carries and fired 3 shots at the wolf. And at this point, the wolf was so close to the Shermans, the shots that Terry was putting into it would have been considered point blank range. Terry stood there shocked in disbelief because after shooting this wolf, he realized the wolf was unharmed. It stood there emotionless, just staring into Terry's eyes. And then just like that, the wolf broke eye contact, ran off into the woods, leaving the Shermans unknown of what just happened.
Terry and Gwen report this incident to local wildlife authorities, but were met with questions rather than answers. Turned out that no wolf population at all had been roaming these lands for about 70 years or so. At this point, this was only the beginning of the Shermans' experiences, as they were quickly plunged into an insane abyss of wild occurrences. But this wasn't the first time that the ranch had experienced something mysterious. In fact, the farm itself had a long rap sheet and history of weird things happening, starting with the first owners, the Meyer family, who owned the farm for 3 generations, dating way back to 1948.
There was a roaring blizzard literally just happening right outside of the Meyer house. Kenneth Myers was inside his own kitchen, just minding his business. Somebody was at the door. As Kenneth heard the knocking, he was startled. He was confused at who would actually be out in this deadly storm, and even more confused as who actually had business with him. So Kenneth creepily peered out of his living room window to see who was out at his front door. He could clearly make out that there was a man a silhouette of a man standing there. The man outside knocked again, and Kenneth knew he had to open up the door for this guy. The aggressive wind and chill of the storm immediately hit Kenneth. He was fighting back to hold the door open. Kenneth greeted the man while struggling to hold this door open and asked the man what he wanted. The wind from the blizzard was so loud that Kenneth had to shout to the man just so he could hear him. And as Kenneth was talking to the man, he noticed that the guy was dressed up in a long black coat with a black hat. And as Kenneth was noticing these things about the man, he also noticed that the man had no face. There was a long, casted shadow across the man's face. Kenneth could not distinguish any features of the man.
The strange man explained that he was sent there from the sheriff's office just to check on Kenneth and his wife on the account of the huge blizzard outside. As this man's explaining this, Kenneth is thinking to himself that he finds it strange that someone from the sheriff's office would send someone out in a blizzard just to check up on him. He also had many friends at the sheriff's office and found it weird that he never seen this guy before. Kenneth Myers looks out behind the man just to confirm that he did in fact walk here on foot. He can't see any car at all, and he can clearly see this man's footprints leading all the way from the road up to Kenneth's porch. So after talking for a second, Kenneth Myers explained that him and his wife were in fact fine and offered for the man to come inside to get warm. The strange man in a low tone politely declined the offer, turned around silently, started walking away. The whole way from the porch to the main road, the man kept the same exact pace, walking almost robot-like until he reached the main road, at which point a bright flash of light happened right in front of Kenneth as he was watching. The light was so bright that Kenneth had to shield his eyes and kind of look away as if you were looking at the sun. Now this light only happened for a split second, so Kenneth was able to look quickly back towards where the light happened and where the man was. And to his complete surprise, this guy was gone. He was nowhere in sight. Extremely puzzled by this, Kenneth thought to himself, I gotta go check on this guy. I don't know what that was, and he could be in danger. So he threw on his huge winter coat, he threw on his boots, he opened the door, and he went back out in this blizzard to check on this guy. Now this blizzard is so intense that the wind and snow are blowing in sideways. So the whole way Kenneth is walking from his porch to where he last seen this guy, he's kind of shielding his eyes and protecting his face from the wind. The only way that Kenneth could make it through this sideways snow and see where he was going is he was following the guy's footprints in the snow, the one that had just left his porch. So Kenneth is looking down, blocking the wind, following footsteps until he stops because the footprints cease to exist. He followed them all the way to the road, and then they just stopped. So Kenneth looks up, and he's scanning the area, and he realizes this is exactly where the bright light happened. And this is the last area he's seen that guy in. So he's scanning the distance, trying to see if he could see where this guy's footprints picked up, or if there's car tracks, or any sign of any other vehicle. He can't see anything. This guy is gone. This freaked him out really bad. So he looked towards his house and just sprinted in that direction until he got there. Kenneth slammed shut the door as he gathered his thoughts, and he never seen or heard from that man again. The next day, he woke up, called the sheriff's office, and his buddies down there confirmed that nobody had sent anybody to his house to check on him.
Now, the Myers ended up leaving the ranch all the way back in 1992 and pretty much just left it abandoned all the way until the Shermans acquired it. However, these same flashes of light that Kenneth saw that night ended up plaguing the ranch, as well as the Shermans who ended up living there for a few months. The Shermans would end up seeing these lights off in the distance, all the way at their tree line, and they would see they were like portals. The lights would open up. They would sometimes see beings or anomalies crawling outside of these portals onto their land. This freaked the Shermans out so much that they would barricade themselves in their house with all those locks and all the barricades that they could find. They would just hear footsteps and clawing on the outside of their house, almost like something was walking around, waiting and looking for an entrance in. And now, with all this happening, they finally understood what all those deadbolts and locks were for.
For just under 2 years, the Shermans would go on to descend into pure madness as their whole farm was tortured by an unknown presence. They would regularly see UFOs soaring above their house and their cornfields. These UFOs would leave burn marks and designs in their cornfields and their grass.
You know that alien scene from Signs? Yeah, they saw that too.
On many occasions, the Shermans would go tend to their livestock only to find them completely slaughtered. The dead livestock had strange wounds. After a few months, their 3 beloved family dogs would go on to go missing at the same time. So the Shermans would look for them for about a week until they found the footprints that the dogs made leading to the forest. So they followed it, went into the forest, and there they seen yet another UFO burn mark right into the ground. Terry and Gwen Sherman finally had enough torment when this presence seemed to invade their very own dreams. They started to both have reoccurring nightmares, one that involved them being aboard a very large spacecraft, accompanied by a strange tall figure. So they called it quits right there, and that was the last straw for them.
The Sherman family pretty much felt hopeless, helpless, and just plain old alone. They even sought the help of local news and just the media, just to get their word out there, see if someone could help them, or if just someone could just even relate to them. Now their story actually caught the attention of someone very important, a wealthy billionaire that goes by the name of Robert Bigelow. See, Robert Bigelow had a huge fascination for the paranormal, the creepy, the unknown, just like you and me. Mostly me. Robert was so fascinated by this place that he offered up to buy the entire ranch off the Shermans. Now, the Shermans did end up losing some money on it, but anything they could take to just get out of their hell, really, their personal hell, they would take. So they immediately took that offer. With the ranch being in Robert's possession, he decided to do some work on it. He funded an entire team to actually see what was happening at the ranch. A full-on scientific investigation.
Now, Robert Bigelow, after some time, did get an insane offer from none other than the United States military. The US military is continuing Robert Bigelow's research and doing investigations of their own. I think it's only a matter of time before the mystery of Skinwalker Ranch reveals itself. Something worse happens. So if you have any accounts or personal experiences with anything in the woods involving a skinwalker or something unexplainable, comment down below. And remember, you see something strange, let us know.